Prosecute, welcome to the Underground Society podcast. How are you?
What's up, dude? It's been a long time coming, especially like for me within the last 6 months. Like it's gotten very real very quickly.
Yeah, man, you have a freaking collab with Kai Wachi.
Yeah, 100%. It all started during COVID when people were doing those like drive-in shows. Kai just so happened to get there and catch the last like half hour of my set. And I'm just, I guess, thankful that I'm naive and like crazy enough to think that I deserve to talk to people when I probably shouldn't be.
I've felt that so many times. It's just like, even though they might seem out of your league, like they're not.
When you're coming up, it's really important to not treat people like they're Michael Jackson. I mean, even the most annoying and the most like forthcoming and pushing people, like it'll take a lot for me to tell someone to like fuck off unless someone's like on ketamine and like punching people in the green room.
Your debut headline show in Denver, how did that go?
The altitude always kicks my ass in Denver. The most fun that I have on stage is when I'm just acting like a gorilla. I wear this like Whoop fitness wristband and I burn almost 1,000 calories during a set.
Holy shit. Prosecute, welcome to the Underground Society podcast. How are you?
What's up, dude? It's been a long time coming. I'm glad we're chatting, dude.
Trying to get you on the podcast. Like I think the original set date was like a month ago or something. Like 3 weeks ago.
Unfortunately, you've like caught just every balancing my time recently has been really insane. So unfortunately,
understandably though,
you felt the rough end of that as I do every day. But
hey, I appreciate I say this to everyone. Schedules, happen, things come up, and especially being, working in the music industry, that shit happens all the time. But the one thing that I really appreciated was your communication, your honesty about everything, and just kind of where you were at. Because I've had people just straight up ghost me, and I'm like, dude, we were supposed to record an episode. Like, you're just leaving me hanging. So you didn't do that, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's. I hope it's obvious it was never intentional. It's always just shit happening. So, I mean, the biggest reason for that too is like, it's not that I don't have the time. It's just that the adjusting between touring and then like having to be alive for my 9 to 5 and like still have a relationship with my girlfriend and like take care of my dogs and like eat and work out and like, it's just like it. The one thing about touring that's like insane, I love it so much, but it does take a lot of getting used to as far as just completely like fucking your daily schedule. It's like your inner clock is just completely fucked when you get home and you just hibernate for like 3 days and then you slowly come back to reality.
With touring too, you're going between, I mean, it's mainly just been US, right, for you?
Yeah, I have a show coming up in Hawaii that'll be the biggest time zone difference so far. But yeah, definitely itching to go beyond that. But yeah, the time zone lately hasn't been
not too bad.
Yeah, it hasn't been really that noticeable. It's just more so the full day of travel and then playing a show. Like I tend to like expend a lot of energy during my sets, so it feels like I'm like running a fucking marathon and I just don't want to talk to anyone the rest of the night. I'm like having the best time before my set and like partying with everyone. And then after my set, I usually shut down and just be like, I'm just going to get an Uber, guys. I love you guys, but I'm really sorry.
The smart man though, because then you're back to the hotel.
This year is like the first pretty heavy. I say heavy. This is the first like just real like big boy touring year for me. Last year was very sporadic. Like every couple months I had something cool come up, and that was somewhat intentional. My team and I wanted to like prioritize slowing down from shows, especially while I was still like on the buildup of just coming up into the space that I am now. I'm not comfy where I'm at, but I'm definitely grateful, and we're gonna keep pushing. But like the getting from point A as it was as just a local DJ that had been DJing here in Austin forever and making the jump to that, I really wanted to just playing local shows and like driving 2-3 hours. I had done that a million times, and unless you like have your shit together online and like good music lined up and released and like just all the other shit needs to be in order for shows to like really be worthwhile in my opinion.
I've even gotten like that because I'm more on the business side, but like I've even gotten like that for me. Like I haven't even gone out to like a local show since April, I think, and it was a big like headliner, it was Sub Focus, but it was like local, like just the weekly promoters and stuff. I haven't gone to a show like that in 5-6 months. So I totally understand.
I mean, I just been there.
You hit a certain
that.
point, you're like, yeah, I've done it a billion times. I'm like kind of burnt out from going out all the time.
And like the only time I really pop out now is for like if homies are in town that I haven't seen in a while. That's like an excuse to see each other.
Homies are playing too.
Yeah, 100%. And like there's a lot of friends that I have now that I only know online or have only developed a relationship with online. So if they do come through town touring, then I'll pop out. But other than that, I'm not out. But yeah, I mean, that's the state of it now. But like early on, it was, I feel like a lot of people coming up their ego wants to like cling to every show that comes in and cling to the identity that they've assumed as like, I'm a DJ and this is something that I do and I'm playing shows all the time. But, if there's a time and a place for stuff like that, because I have so much of like my come up that I owe to that like era of just not even having my own music, but just opening for shows and not making money and like selling tickets for like slots and just all the bullshit that comes with like local promotion. But there comes a point when like, if your aspirations are like bigger than being a local DJ, then there's a crossroads at some point where it's like you can stay in the position you're at playing these slots and not making any money and not really having an impact on people because you're playing the same shows. And, you might gather an okay like following locally, but in my opinion, you just need to go in the cave and make music. So anyways, huge workaround. But yeah, like last year, that was kind of on like the tail end of that point in my career when I was like coming out of that point of not playing shows for forever. So they kind of came in slowly. And then this year it's been pretty, like the tour with Uber and Fizo is like every weekend for like 5-6 weeks, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm just getting my toes wet as far as like feeling like a career, like DJ on the touring side of it, which is really cool.
Get into a little bit more of like details of like what kind of your journey looked like going from, smaller local artists to like, did you make that decision that you were going to stop, going to the local stuff and really just stay home and focus on producing? Or did you have management kind of guide you in that direction? Or was that kind of a person?
That was 100% my want, because I kind of just, like I said, realized like I felt like I was running around in circles. I feel like a lot of what makes things work on a career standpoint for artists coming up now is based on what they're okay with and what they're complacent with as far as their ego and their identity. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people, and no shame to them. It's just they're cool with it. It's just what they want. I just quickly realized that I fell into the same kind of crowd of people that wanted to keep doing the same thing, and I wanted to make a career out of this. Yeah, and really like, I mean, just go for it. I had a career in real estate before this. I dropped out of college. I was DJing all through high school and DJing frat parties and shit. And yeah, I just
where'd you go to college?
Texas Tech. I did 3 semesters in Lubbock, and it's a crazy town. I don't recommend it. Shout out all my Lubbock people, but your town sucks. And yeah, I had a great time. It was a big like growth period for me, but school definitely wasn't for me. And I just called my parents one day and I was like, I can't do this, but I don't want to just go work at some like shitty job. So I was like, what can I do? I kind of like had a conversation with them, like, what can I do to kind of like complement this? And they had been in real estate forever. So I sold new homes. I started doing that when I was 19. So I was like sitting in the like new build communities that you see with the signs up and shit. And I was sitting in those model homes, and it was great. I mean, like if you're talking like career, like kind of 9 to 5, like corporate shit, it was awesome. You make this.
Because with real estate, you kind of make your own schedule to a certain degree, right? Like,
well, yeah.
It's just like meetings with clients.
What's weird about this is a lot of people like misinterpret new home sales as being a realtor, and they're like actually really different things. Like, so you make roughly the same money that a realtor does, but it's like, think about like being a realtor, but like packaged into a corporate like 9 to 5 like structure of that. So
got it.
It's like you're there
you're
every
working for a company.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's just you don't need a license for it. It's like it's 10 to 6 On the weekend, you work every weekend. That's when people buy houses that are on the weekend. So you get like a Tuesday, Wednesday off. And then, yeah, it's very like structured, but you make the same money as realtors pretty much. And you only have to like know your shit in your community and your little like in your little neighborhood. You know, you don't have to be a fucking whiz kid on like every little nook and cranny of your city and stuff and be driving all over. And to be fair, like the ceiling is higher in being an agent, but I think it's really slept on how much money you can make in new home sales. So yeah, and I was doing that and it felt good, and I was making really good money at the time. At least it felt like I was for like 19, 20, 21. And rent was super low. I was staying in a house with my boys, and it's 5 of us in a house. We were paying like $400 each to like everything. Yeah, I'm like, I think back on those days all the time now, like financially. I'm like, God damn it.
Can I go back? Yeah.
Yeah. I just wish I would have saved more money but at the same time, I was enjoying myself. So fuck it.
The editor of this podcast actually is a real estate agent as well. And he's also started at a very young age. I know that you just explained the difference between the two, but he's actually a real estate agent. It was harder for him because he was so young to gain trust in people and actually sell them like one of the biggest purchases of their life.
100 million%. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your like kind of struggle with that? Because I'm always like, I know it's hard for someone that young.
Yeah, it was really intimidating, but it also made me feel really important, and like my life was going in the right direction when I was 19. Boy, yeah, I was like, all you losers are in college, and I'm got a suit and tie on. Like, look at me. I was like super airheaded back then about it, but I 100% resonate with that because again, like I got hired when I was 19, so like I was sitting across from like a family of 5 in their 40s that has saved up their entire life to purchase this house. And like,
I just graduated high school.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I'm the vessel through which they have to go through to like make that come to fruition and make sure that they're happy. So I think like I tend to have like pretty good like people skills, like pretty naturally. So I think that like just carried me through it. Even when I didn't know what the fuck was going on, I could kind of like schmooze my way through it and at least make people feel respected. And that was the most important thing. But yeah, that was a huge learning curve. And that was kind of the jumping off point was like, I was actually I was still doing music stuff, but I wasn't DJing as much during that time. I was actually throwing hip hop shows here in Austin. So because I had like a surplus of money at the time, I was like renting out venues and promoting hip hop shows because I had originally, when I was DJing in high school and stuff, just that's like the crowd that I fell in with, kind of like I don't know who was big at that time. It's kind of like the XXX like come up like 2016, like, you know, when that whole like generation of hip hop was really big. That was like really interesting to me. So I was like throwing shows here and just like trying to, that was gonna kind of be my gig. I wasn't really like, I felt pretty good about that. It was like, I felt like I compromised with myself of like, okay, I can work this 9 to 5, but I can still do something cool. And like being at a show and like knowing that like every ounce of what's happening there came out of your brain is like pretty awesome.
You were the actual like promoter, but I used to work for a promoter doing productions and stuff. And yeah, it's a different game, man.
Yeah, it's a crazy world. Like
especially because I did that in the EDM world, so you're talking like rap world. I know that's even more on like a hardcore
level. It gets crazy really quickly. Luckily, like I'm from the suburbs. Obviously, like I'm not a street dude, but luckily, like a lot of my homies, I was mutual friends with a lot of like real street guys, and they helped me kind of meander through all of that. And I felt safe in those environments. So shout out to all my boys here who garnered me in those situations. I was just trying to get them paid. And yeah, it's just like, I tend to like jump like gung ho into things. I'm very like spontaneous, like kind of all in.
Either are doing 100%. Or doing it 100% or not doing it at all type of person.
100%. So yeah, I just had the idea and then just jumped into it. So, but I mean, at the same time, when you do shit that way, like that's like your rate of learning and whatever you're doing is the fastest it can possibly be because you're just like throwing yourself in the hellfire. So I think like I threw like 4 or 5 shows in a span of maybe like a year and probably lost $15,000 to $20,000 out of my pocket. And that was when but I didn't care, right? It was like I still have the mentality now where I just want it to be a good time. I just want everyone to enjoy themselves. And I was like, I'll figure out the money later. Like, let's just make this really cool. So I did my best to do that.
Yeah,
so
you left at a loss then?
Yeah, so I kind of like, it's kind of blurry for me, but I boil it down to like, I woke up one day essentially and was like, I've always wanted to like really go at this as far as like dance music and bass music goes. And it was very obvious to me that in my situation that I was in at the time that it wasn't going to be possible. So I kind of just said, it's now or never.
Let's go try this other thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why like,
when did you get introduced to like the EDM stuff? Because you were very much like hip hop, like what's a much different lane. How did you kind of like remove yourself? What did that look like?
The EDM stuff actually like predated any of my interest in that kind of generation of hip hop. I mean, I was like raised on like everything. So like I listened to everything. I was into everything. But like my first show ever, I was 14 and it was a He Who Must Not Be Named show. Starts with a D. But it was Getter, X-Core, Terra Vita, The Frim. It was like it was like the Firepower tour. And it was when he had that big like Vortex production like projector thing. So yeah, I was like 14. We were bone sober, me and my friends, and we were like been listening to Excision and just all the Firepower shit and Getter and people like that. And, you know, we'd like spin our like mom's cars around the block when we were 15 and like just whoever's like mom's car had the best sub in it, we would just like do laps in that car and listen to like Excision songs and stuff, Space Laces and stuff like that.
That old school dubstep sound too. It's changed so much.
Yeah, like I kind of like came in like just after, like the first dubstep I ever heard was the UKF Mega Mix of 2010. So that like, there's a big difference between like that sound and like the Excision, Space Laces, like Getter, like that felt like this new exciting like kind of rock star shit as far as like bass music went. So like I'm kind of right on the cusp. So like a lot of my homies are more educated on what went down in the years before that, like because those were pivotal years for even setting up the shit that I eventually got into. But yeah, that's like kind of the era, like the Space Laces, Excision, like, you know, that everyone on that show, like that was kind of like our shit, and just it changed our lives. They were touring with that big ass like PK rig, and it, like I said, we were 14. We had never felt sound like that like in my entire life, and we were just hooked, and I was hooked in particular. And so I kind of like from that point on, I was just like, I remember looking, and I know a lot of people feel the same way, but I remember looking at like even the local openers and just being like, I can't, like, how do I do that? Like, how do I, it makes sense to my brain. So like, how do I get there?
Yeah.
I remember like messaging those guys, and it's funny, like in retrospect, like messaging like just a random local opener and just being like, yo, like you're the shit. Like you were so amazing. Like, da, da, da. And like they were, you know, but like in retrospect, like becoming that like shithead local opener, it's like funny to think that like some kid was like reaching out to them being like, you're fucking awesome.
You hit some of those moments in along your journey of like, you look back and you're like, I remember like begging or like, you know, asking someone a million questions of how do I do this or how do I get into that? And you look back and you're like, oh, I'm actually doing like, I'm way ahead of that now. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. The perspective thing is like, is the most challenging part of like all of this, to be honest. I mean, like, especially like for me within the last 6 months, like it's gotten very real, like very quickly. And
even getting a lot of notoriety and a lot of attention.
It's crazy, man. It's like, it's like half my brain, it doesn't make any sense. The other part of my brain is like, of course it's happening. Like, this is what like I have been trying to do my entire life. Like, and again, like quit a great career and like redirected the whole trajectory of my life towards. But like, yeah, it's like that constant push and pull of like, holy shit, like I don't deserve this. Why am I here? And then
imposter syndrome.
The other part of your brain being like, yo, like this is my shit. Like, this is what I do now. This is my life because I wanted it to be. So it's like, I don't know, the perspective thing, like even going, like you're saying, just even the jump from being a fan to being a local opener, like there's just so many levels to that. And it's just crazy to wrap your head around because you're like in it, like zoomed in, you know, all the time just on where you're at currently. And then like in retrospect, it's really crazy. But in the moment, there's no way. I don't know. It kind of sucks, but you just get used to it.
It's important to look back and like look at all that though, because otherwise you're just like, you're going a million miles an hour forward and you're like, it's, you know, it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. You're just like, oh, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Chasing that dopamine. And it's like, it's so important to be like, oh, look at actually how far I have come.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It's just like you can't, your brain like adapts to the situation that you're in at the moment, you know? So it's like, even if you do like take a conscious effort to think back and like try to get emotional about like progress and like how things have panned out, your brain is just so well adapted to what's going on now that you'll never feel the same emotions that you did when you were 14, like looking up to those guys. So that kind of sucks, but like I try my hardest to at least be conscious of it at all times, because I know like how fortunate I've been to get the opportunities that I've gotten and to be connected with the people that I'm gotten to meet and make good relationships with. You know, these are guys that I was on the other side of that rail from, and I was like,
yeah, man, you have a freaking collab with Kai Wachi.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like Danny, for instance, like I was just such a fan. And that was kind of like the sudden death era of like his come up, like I guess like 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. I might be off by a year or two, but kind of like that first like Never Say Die EP he put out, like that was also right when like my interest was getting back into electronic music coming out of the hip hop shit. And yeah, like I don't know. I was totally enamored by just that kind of like slice of music as far as dubstep went, and kind of the violence and like the aggression that came with that. And yeah, it's crazy because the guy that I admired and looked up to the best ended up becoming one of like my best friends. And like his whole camp is just like, I don't feel any more comfortable with anyone else in this scene than I do with that camp. And there's so many great camps of artists and teams and amazing people, but it's just crazy ironic, you know, that like that was the one guy that I looked up to the most. And now it's just like that's
your home.
Yeah.
Ish. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like where, like when I play shows with Danny, I'm just never calmer, like never more collected. Like, yeah, man, it's just, those are my guys. So
that's dope. How did that collab come to be with how did you meet him?
With Danny or with Kai?
Yeah, Kai.
So Kai is another guy who I love Kai so much. He's been just so gracious and like helpful to me and like makes a real effort to like be cognizant of like putting his hand out for me and just, yeah. And it all started, during COVID when people were doing those like drive-in shows.
Oh yeah.
I played one. Long story short, my manager, who I'm still with now, has been talent buying like in Texas forever and works with all the companies that do all the big cool shit. Like he has had a hand in that somehow. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like coming out of being a local, like he kind of like, I guess, saw some sort of, I just met him and he was super down with the project, and I respected him because at the time, you know, going from a local and then meeting someone who does like Freaky Deaky and Ubby Dubby and like the festivals and just works with the huge companies in Texas, that felt like it was right at the time.
That's Disco Donnie, right?
Yeah. But like, yeah, he was just always in the mix. He's just always been in the mix as far as he wasn't tied down to one company. It was just like everybody, when people booked their tours through Texas, he had some hand in like doing that as well. So anyways, like I think he had just like started to manage me and threw me on a show. I think it was in like New Braunfels or something. And drive-in show, I think it was me, Kai, and Sullivan King. I guess Kai just so happened to get there like and catch the last like half hour of my set, and just came up to me after, just genuinely was like, dude, that was like really sick. Like I think like I've gotten much better at it now, but originally at the time, like I was just starting to figure out that The most fun that I have on stage is when I'm just acting like a gorilla and just like, I don't know. I can't like stand still on stage, and
that's a good thing.
It's like
supposed to be performing too.
Yeah, it's like my defense. It's like my defense mechanism against like show anxiety too and stuff. Because if I just stand there, I'll just like spiral and just wonder what everyone's thinking about me. Versus
everyone's looking at me, yeah.
versus just like, if I'm just committed to doing this thing and like doing what I do like everywhere, then I don't get stuck like thinking about that. So anyways, I think he picked up on that and was like, yo, that was really sick. Like we just ended up chatting and just hit it off. And yeah, we've just been in touch ever since then. So it kind of started off as just like a little seedling of like, hey, I respect this kid. And like, we had a good chat, and it just kind of left it at that. And I think he saw that my music was progressing and getting better, and yeah, just got closer and closer with him and staying in touch. And now we talk almost every day, and yeah, he's really back, and we have a lot of cool shit planned.
Yeah, obviously he's, because the Kai Wachi brand is a huge project, and he's touring all over the world all the time. Was it hard to work on music with someone who's that busy?
No, I think like our relationship grew strong enough before then to where when it did come time to like work on music, it was very like natural, and just, it's not to say like it happened, like he couldn't just stop what he was doing and like make a song on me, but it was obvious that he was still like prioritizing time with me, and I really appreciated that. And yeah, I mean, we were like the first song we worked on that never got released or whatever. I don't like it that much anymore, but that was like, he was in a hotel room when we were on Discord working on that. And then the second one, we send each other tunes all the time just to get each other's opinions on it. And yeah, he liked this idea that I had, and then it just blossomed into, we just got on FaceTime and just, yeah, ironed it out. So yeah, it's like, the cool thing about it is with everyone touring and being crazy busy, they still have time at home, so barring that their schedule allows for it, there's still time where they can kind of kick back. But I think it's just nice that our relationship held enough weight for him to prioritize that time with me,
That's good.
Yeah.
So I could see where that could be an issue where like, if, a bigger artist is working, we've seen Rez do it, we've seen Excision do it, we've seen a bunch of the big people do it. But working with someone who has like that limited amount of time because you're touring all the time, I could see where the problem would arise of like, hey, my priorities might not be on like this small artist. And then from like that standpoint, being the smaller artist or whatever, you're like, shit, I don't know if it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I think a big mistake that a lot of people make is with collabing and with trying to get in touch with bigger artists is like, it feels very like transactional and very like just on the surface. And I guess what I always try to like pride myself on is I want to get in rooms with these people and I want to establish a relationship. And I have a good feeling, like barring that they're not an asshole, if like we hang out, we can have some drinks and just like, I'll leave that room and I'll be able to text them or whatever, like that's something I really think is important. And I really like feel for a lot of people that struggle, because I've just always been an outgoing person in social settings. Like when I'm home, I'm super like in my cave and I don't really talk to people, but
Me too.
when I am out, I'm very like social and yeah, I just like, I feel for people who kind of get frozen in those situations, especially with bigger artists, because I get that. And I'm just, I guess, thankful that I'm naive and like crazy enough to think that I deserve to talk to people when I probably shouldn't be. But
this is what I do. I talk to artists, for this podcast and this project. And I've felt that so many times. And it's just like, they're at the end of the day, they're people too, man. Like you guys are all just like, they might live in different parts of like the country or whatever. But we're all collectively at the same, like at the end of the day, all doing the same shit. We're all under the same kind of umbrella.
Yeah.
It's all one big family. So it's like,
100%.
Even though they might seem out of your league, like they're not. You're in the same league.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just like the kind of having that like blind courage to just like shoot your shot with people, and again, like it can go south. Like I don't. It's just like hard because it's like I don't know how to like rationalize it for people that maybe like being social isn't one of their strengths. Like it's hard for me to come from that angle because I like am immediately in that mode when I'm at shows and stuff. But yeah, it's just like I think the priority for people coming up is people and then music. Because if it's music and then people, then you feel that, and it like you get the guy in the green room that's holding his phone up to your ear and playing a song, and it's like, dude, I don't even know you, I don't even know your name, like I don't know what you're on right now. I don't, it's like
that's a factor as well.
Yeah. So it's like, and it makes total sense for like people in the crowd and like fans and I don't like the word fans, but like supporters and just like people who like fuck with you. Like it makes sense for them to feel that gap, because that's what the whole like allure of enjoying an artist is enjoying the like lifting them up on this pedestal, and of course there's like negatives that come with that, but like the fun of it of being someone who's at a show is like, oh my god, that's so and so, and oh my god, these visuals and this music and this sound system, and look at all these people around me having a blast. Like I totally get it from that perspective, but I think when you're coming up, it's really important to kind of shift your mindset in that regard and not treat people like they're like Michael Jackson in the green room,
Sweet. Well, I have one more question about Kai, and then we'll move on to my next topic.
I tend to like,
you're good.
Just spit it all out.
Did you ever, because I know you're very much into going to the gym, and you mentioned that you love working out. He's very much that way as well. Have you guys ever had an opportunity to work out together?
We haven't. We'll be seeing each other more soon. I don't want to give away anything that isn't like set in stone, but yeah, I mean, he lives in Idaho, I live in Texas, and a lot of the time that I have cross paths with him on the road and stuff, it's just like a one-off date or whatever when he's in Texas. And yeah, I haven't done that yet, but within the next year, a year from now, ask me and it'll be like, yeah, we've done it a million times. So that's definitely the plan once we get around each other some more.
Awesome. Yeah, I met him one time at a show that he played here locally where I live in San Francisco, and I was working productions at the time at that show too. So I had backstage access and stuff. I said what's up to him, and we literally like didn't even talk about music at all. Like we literally just talked about lifting. I used to compete in men's physique, so like he had a bunch of questions for me regarding that, and he's like just a genuine guy, and it was so cool to like, back to your point of like putting them on a pedestal. It was just cool to like almost for like 30 minutes take him off a pedestal and just be like, we're just gym bros, man.
Yeah, 100%. And so, like that,
super cool.
Those kinds of moments like trump everything, like at least like from the artist side of things, like touring with people that you generally like enjoy spending time around is like trumps everything. Like the music is obviously important, and like all the business stuff is obviously really important as well. But I think what trumps it all is just having moments like that with people, and like you're saying, just kind of stepping away from the current like situation and just having a moment is much, much, much more important than you just trying to send them a SoundCloud link and then like, fucking they never hear from you again. They're like, oh yeah, this guy was really annoying and just pushy, and like it's just like it's hard too, because like I've been that guy that like didn't know how to meander those situations, and like gone up to people like in the past that I really respect and that I'm close with now, was just like, I thought they were an asshole just because of like how they came off to me. But in retrospect, I was like, oh, that was 100% like my fault. But you're just so naive and so excited to like meet people that, so there is that like too, where it's like, I try to be conscious of that as well, as like give people the benefit of the doubt. Like everyone's in a different timeline of where they're at in this and figuring it out. And I mean, even the most annoying and the most like forthcoming and pushing people, like I try to be respectful to them and not be like, it'll take a lot for me to tell someone to like fuck off. I don't think I've ever done that unless someone's like on ketamine and like punching people in the green room or something. But
I have seen those people as well. It's frightening.
Yeah, that's a different like can of worms. But if we're just talking like chatting over a drink, like I feel like I try to be conscious of that as well, because it is hard when those first interactions that you have with big artists to kind of like keep your cool and be a real person.
At the same time though too, it's like it comes with the fame and popularity. Like once you become famous, especially in music or whatever, and you have a fan base, like your fan wants to meet you and you're going to be excited to meet you because they listen to all your music, they look at all your social medias, they look at all that. So it's like kind of understanding that side of it too. So
yeah, and with them,
it's a fine line to kind of balance on both sides, I feel like.
100%. Yeah, and more so that point was like directed towards like DJs, like local DJs and stuff, you know, because the dynamic is a little bit different because they have like a vested interest in coming to meet you, and that's very real. Like
that's true because they're like trying to make it. So
yeah, and like
they have kind of a
again, like I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't throw myself into situations like that. So that's very real and true. But like when it comes to people just at the shows, like I 100% respect everything that they're saying, and like I know what it's like to be in the crowd and to just enjoy musicians and to really be excited to meet them and I totally get that. So I have all the patience in the world when it comes to just people at the shows, and that point was more for the local kids that have probably spent like more than enough time around people to know that that's not like how you act around human beings.
For sure. I wanted to go back to talking about, you know, you leaving real estate and you kind of transitioning into the music stuff. Why do you think it was such a challenge for you or was it challenging going from the real estate game to music? And are you still currently doing that or?
No, I work for a big tech company right now. I was working at a grocery store and someone left and said, "Hey, you want to make twice what you're making now from home?" And I was like, "Here's my resume." So yeah, I've been doing that, and it works perfectly for me right now. You know, I can work from anywhere, even when I'm on the road. I can get my shit done, and it's like, I don't use this word often, but it's a fucking blessing. It really has been, because it's perfect timing, perfect just situation. As far as work goes, like I barely expend any energy to get a paycheck, and I'm like super aware and thankful of how insane it is to have that. And
that way you're able to put all of the energy that you do have into your craft.
1,000,000%. Yeah. And I just have the mental like bandwidth, like, cause I was in those types of jobs where it just exhausts you. And like 90% of jobs are like that. When you come home, you just don't have any more capacity for anything else. It's just eat and go to sleep and that's watch the show and then like do it all over again. I totally resonate with that like way of life. So yeah, I've just gotten super lucky, because without that, I feel like my progress would definitely be stunted for me personally, because I would not have as much capacity for that. So that's like shouts out to people that aren't this lucky to have just an opportunity handed to them like that, because that's 100% luck. Like I said, I just knew someone at a store and they hooked me up, and I tried to pay that forward and get people hired at this place. But I think
that's just the stars and God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. I think it's just the stars aligning of like, hey, this is really the road that you're supposed to go down. So things are going to start happening around you. They're going to help support that and push you.
1,000%. And like I said, I try to be very conscious of that, and like how it's very easy to get stuck into the current situation that you're in. But I try to have those moments where I'm like, hey, like, remember like X, Y, and Z have happened so that you can do this and do this at this level. So like, don't lose sight of that, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. Were you scared to make that jump out of the real estate game?
Yeah, yes and no. Like I said, it was like right up my alley of just spontaneously doing shit and completely redirecting the course of my life and my entire identity. And so, yeah, like I think my personality just lends itself to like reinvention, I guess, in that regard. And just, I guess that's a like really nice word for just like not second guessing myself and just jumping into shit, which always isn't the best route, but like that's the only way I know how. So yeah, it was really easy to step away from real estate, because the current situation, or the situation I was in at the time, wasn't the best as far as like the people that I was surrounded with. So that like, it was either I went to another builder and like started something new with another company, or I just did this and just moved back in with my parents. And like, again, like I'm so fortunate to have parents that have been like overly supportive of what I'm doing and just kind of like always give me the benefit of the doubt. And
always helps when you have not only supportive parents, but also like kind of I don't know how much of a safety net they were, you know, financially.
Yeah. I mean, they still are. I mean, it's,
that's a huge help.
Yeah. It's massive. And again, like this is all shit that like I felt a massive amount of like the imposter syndrome was like on 10, even just coming out of college, like imposter syndrome, like outside of music, like just in life. Like I felt like, because, you know, my friends and I know, you know, the majority of people don't have that. And it's just something that I've made sure I've communicated to them how thankful I am. And it took me a long time. And you know, I'm 26 now. So like I'm a little bit later in my come up than a lot of like my peers were. And I think that I kind of attribute that to like just me learning those lessons later in life and not having, because like if I was in the position I'm at now when I was like 17, 18, it would not have been going as swimmingly because I was just an airheaded like doucher and yeah, I would have totally fed into my ego and just it would not have worked out. So yeah, I'm like having the support at home. I could move back in with my parents and yeah, I just moved back in with them and got like an hourly job. I was delivering pizzas for a while and then got a job at a grocery store and
then you got your great opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. And it was just like, this is the, if we're talking about timing, like there's no better time to make it work than now, you know? So
was there ever a thought for you, because I know you were interested in, you know, the dubstep stuff and we kind of go in this direction back when you were doing the real estate stuff, correct? Was there ever a thought that you might be able to do both?
No, because I was already kind of doing that with the hip hop stuff. So I was already balancing both of those things. And I mean, obviously not like particularly in dubstep, but I was already doing something outside of work that I was like serious about and like motivated to do. And yeah, I was just like, and again, like with that particular career, like what you put in is what you get out of it. And
if you take your attention away to pour into something else, even if you're not taking all of it away, it's still going to suffer.
Right. I mean, it's a direct relationship between how much time and focus you put into it and how much money you make. So it's like for people that are focused in that regard on a career like that, like that's why it's an awesome career, because if you're committed and you work hard, like you can be driving a Beamer and buy a house when you're 23, you know, if you've been doing it for a few years, like it can happen that quickly if you're committed. And yeah, like that was really attractive to me at the time. But I just, again, that epiphany was if I don't do this in my 20s, then I'm not gonna be able to do it ever again. And what got me off the porch was like, I can always go back to that. And I don't have that thought anymore. Like I'm 100,000,000% down into what I'm doing now. But like in those early months, like that was kind of the safety net mentally for me. It was like, if this goes south and just fizzles out, like I can go back to sitting in a model home, you know?
Yeah. That's good that you at least had that option.
Yeah. I'm definitely glad I went through that, you know?
That's something that I used to work at Amazon, actually, being a warehouse worker. And Amazon, I don't know if they still do this, but they offer when people quit or want to leave, they offer them a $2,000, like you sign a piece of paper that says basically you can never come back and then they pay you $2,000 as well for that like contract or whatever. I don't know why they do that, but I was always, you know, when I left, I was like, everyone was telling me to do that. Like, you're never going to come back here. You have bigger things ahead of you, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you know what? Just in case I'm not going to, just in case I need something to go back to, I don't ever want to burn bridges. So that's cool that you didn't either. And
yeah, I totally resonate with that. I mean, it's just like, I was airheaded enough to jump off, but at the same time, like,
don't burn your bridges.
Yeah. It was just like, and especially in the real estate world, like locally, like it's a lot of the same people doing the important things, and like word gets around, and it's very like small circle. It's very similar to any industry you get into. Is like you end up realizing that there's, a handful of people that you'll run into over and over again that, really call the shots. And yeah, it was just like, I'm going to leave this gracefully, but at the same time, like, fuck these people, like I have to.
I don't ever want to come back, but
yeah,
just in case.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, it was kind of a mind fuck for me at the time, but I knew that I could do it. I knew that I could make it work, and it's finally like really feeling like that's happening.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, it's been fun watching you not only pop on the scene, but also just everything you've been doing, especially in the last couple of months. I wanted to ask, get into one more topic before we get out of here, but your debut headline show in Denver. How did that go?
It was sick.
I know that was a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of conflicts. Like,
oh no.
Yeah, like just Denver. There's always like 30 million things happening. So like my boy Midnight Tea had a show like a couple hours outside of Denver, and I know a lot of people travel for that. I had a lot of homies that were playing that show. But all of that aside, it was great. Yeah, I mean the kids that were there were like super tuned in, and we have a pretty cool like overall like encompassing piece of content that we're going to put out pretty soon to like kind of capture that whole day. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, it went really well, and yeah, I have a great relationship with that promoter, and yeah, I mean, I
where was it at?
It was Bass Ops. It was Vinyl in Denver. So yeah, it was a great time. It was all around an awesome show. But it's
who was on support for that?
It was J Moss and Ophion, and like yeah, and it was kind of funny because like they just like sent me the support, and then it ended up just being like two of my homies, so it worked out really well. So yeah, it was sick. It was a really good night, and the altitude always kicks my ass in Denver.
I was there in January. It was very cold when I went, but the altitude definitely you can tell.
Yeah, you just like it doesn't feel like it's having an effect on you, and then like you sleep shittier, so you don't feel as good the next day, and then like it just kind of like compounds, and like again like when I play sets, like I like literally go until I can't breathe. So like it's like a very like I wear this like Whoop like fitness wristband, and
yeah, what's your stats at the end of a performance?
I burn almost 1,000 calories during a set.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so like I would have to be on a treadmill for
get this boy some in and out afterwards.
Yeah, I'd have to be on a treadmill like all day to burn the same, because like I'll go and like bust my ass at the gym and burn like 280 like 300 calories on like a good day, you know. So it's like I don't know, it's just crazy because the heart rate, like your heart rate's at like 150 plus for like an hour straight, you know. So it's like,
do you back off of cardio when you're playing a lot of shows?
No, I mean, to be honest, like I'm still trying to find my groove with being like, in the past, I've been very into the gym and been very consistent, and like I was really.
Has that shifted since you're traveling so much?
Well, I think
feel like that'd be hard.
COVID just kind of fucked my whole world up as far as like how well I took care of myself, and so I'm still coming out of that like drought, just like ordering takeout 3 times a day with my girlfriend, and like just not going anywhere, not doing anything, and watching movies all day every day for 2 years was like, I mean, I'm 20 pounds overweight right now, and people are always like, well, you look fine, like whatever, like shut up, like you're being like a sissy. And I'm like, dude, like this isn't like, I know what my baseline is, and I'm like up here, you know, like, so it doesn't matter how I look to you, but I'm fucking fat right now. So like
thanks for not, you know, destroying my confidence.
Yeah. Well, it's like funny.
I know what the reality of the situation is.
Yeah. 100%. Like in high school, I couldn't grow a hair to weigh more than 165 pounds. And now I'm like pushing 200. So it's just funny how like life works out like that. Like I feel like from a mass standpoint, like I'm sitting pretty, but like I need to get the like football, just doing shit all the time, like just active kind of body back. So that's what I'm prioritizing now. So to your point, I haven't been as consistent recently, so I haven't really been that mindful of it, but it definitely doesn't hurt to be on the road and eating Taco Bell, but then also burning 1,000 to 2,000 calories a day from walking around everywhere and shit. So yeah, that's kind of one of the positives with it, you know. But yeah, I'm still trying to break out of just being a piece of shit and get back in the gym and keep moving. I mean, I am active. Like I go to the sauna a lot, go and do cardio a lot, but it's kind of just sporadic right now. It's more, I do it more on a daily basis now for like the mental aspects of it, because I'll kind of go crazy if I don't go expend my energy.
That's almost like the singular reason why I go to the gym. I don't really give a shit about like I've had my time of competing in bodybuilding. I don't really care about that. As long as I like can at least maintain and have a healthy looking body, and like, but my thing is, dude, I feel so much better like all day long if I go to the gym first thing in the morning.
Yeah, 100%.
So much better.
You'll never, I mean, it's like the same shit beating in the ground, but you'll never regret going to the gym, you know? So it's like,
you might not want to go, but you'll never leave the gym hating that you went.
yeah, 100%. So that's like the shitty thing for me right now is like, I think the big challenge is like, I've never been in a position where I needed to like do X, Y, and Z to get to a certain place. I was just kind of walking around at a weight that I felt good in. And like I said, I always had a hard time gaining weight, like in high school and in college and stuff. And as soon as that changed, it was just like, fuck, you mean like I have to be disciplined and consistent to like get back to how I feel in my head, you know? Like, I don't know. It's just, I think that's the big challenge now is like breaking out of that.
I'm not 16 anymore. Fuck.
Yeah. It's like, but my brain still feels like I'm 16 and like I should be fucking lean as shit. So yeah, we'll get there. I'm working on it, but yeah, it's crazy that the sets, I expel that much energy just because I can't sit still, you know?
Well, other than the fitness goals, what are some career goals and life goals that you have coming up for the future, near future?
I plan on quitting my job in about 6, 7, 8 months.
So, like,
that's
game
like my
plan as far as when that would be
roughly.
appropriate?
There's just some shit that's going to happen where financially I can hopefully pay my bills based on the touring that I'll be doing next year. Because like I said, it's picked up a lot next year, but next year will be like really real. And you know, my team has been a huge help in like making the leverage come in financially as far as like being able to pay my rent off of music. So that's like a huge blessing. So yeah, like this year it's been a really nice like epiphany to have is like, holy shit, like I can really make like real money and support myself and like actually live like a comfortable life off of music. And you know, that's something I wasn't really prepared to do. I was kind of prepared to just like eat shit, you know? So yeah, I mean,
awesome.
I say the big goal is, thank you, dude. The big goal is to quit my job. So I'm not tied to any structure or anything anymore. And not that I'm tied to a ton of structure now, but it would just be nice. And
literally don't even have to worry about that other aspect. Just pull in on music. Yeah.
100%. I mean, from a music standpoint, I'm just going to keep it on. I've never really been one to like make an exact plan. I'll like roughly make a plan for the year of like releases that I want to have. And
things happen, man. Things come up, things change. Dude, I've said this a million times since day one on the podcast, but my next kind of phase of my career is going to Icon. And yeah, that hasn't happened because financially it keeps getting pushed and kind of just got to learn how to adjust. That's kind of part of the game too.
100%. It's just, you got to kind of balance out like having a rough plan, but also just like being spontaneous and taking what comes. Cause I mean, that's how shows are. You just like shit pops up in your email and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe like this is happening. And you know, you would have had there's no way to strategize in that regard. I think it's just what you can control is, at least from my personal standpoint, is the music and making the music as good as it can be. And you know, like, just at least from a creative standpoint, like making everything around the music as cool and as like inspiring for people that it can possibly be, and helps people get excited about it and kind of push this whole thing forward. So yeah, that's kind of my priorities at the moment.
Well, where can listeners keep up to date with everything you have coming up?
Yeah, just Prosecute music everywhere. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything coming up particular. I do, but it's just regular. Nothing crazy like, or unique, I should say. Just kind of going to keep on hammering what I've been doing. So yeah, Prosecute music everywhere. Prosecute on Spotify and yeah, just going to keep rocking and rolling, man.
Awesome. Last final question. I ask this to everyone at the end of every single interview. If there was one piece of advice you could give yourself when you first picked up the DAW or whatever DAW you use, what would that be? The advice you would give yourself?
Like give my younger self?
Yeah.
There's no right way to do it. Your sound doesn't come from chasing a particular synth or chasing a particular sample that you put in every piece of music. Your sound comes from you. It comes from the little nuances of how you do shit. It comes from just your hands being on something. Like it'll eventually siphon in the direction of sounding like you've been making the same things over and over again. So yeah, don't chase a sound that you feel like you need to have or like a gimmick in that regard. And there's no right way to do it. Watching Virtual Riot, you know, tutorials can only get you so far, but
that's
like,
just the way he does it. Doesn't mean it's just the way you should 100% do it yourself.
And you just have to like, you enjoying yourself and making shit that you enjoy is like more important than anything else. So whatever route you take towards reaching that final destination doesn't matter, and everybody does shit differently. And yeah, that's really is. It's just don't chase a sound, because I spent a lot of time thinking that, you know, that it was like an active thing that artists were doing, like, hey, this is my shit, like this is going to become my shit. But they only get to that point by just doing it so often that it becomes just the way they do shit. And and I'd say like the last thing would be like, when it comes to technical stuff and like mixed down stuff, is like there's like beauty in doing things the wrong way and kind of breaking shit, and there's like a beauty in not knowing how to do shit the right way, because if your head's in the right place and like, you know what you aspire to sound like and what your taste is, and you can kind of tune into that like on a real level, like regardless of how you're doing it or what your technical background is, like you'll get there if, you know, eventually. So yeah, I mean, I still have to remind myself to keep enjoying this and keep having fun, because once it gets really real as far as a career standpoint goes, like
things change.
You start to have thoughts and pressure and deadlines and stuff, and it can kind of get in the way. But you know, it all comes back to just enjoying yourself, and just not wavering from that, and you'll be fine.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time today, man. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.